fresh cup of black coffee. And it gets flat spotted a little bit. You drive it for 10 minutes, it's gone. It's really not a big deal.
Or if you take a hairpin at Formula One at 300 kilometers an hour,
That'll hurt.
lock up, you're going to flat
That'll
spot
hurt.
it.
Yeah. I was debating even putting on this year, but I find one, I want to see my car. I think fluids is the most important part.
Right? In our climate, like it gets so cold, that's a battery killer.
The GT3 RS is still pending. It's still on life support.
And people can't buy what they want for their car. You're spending $15,000 on wheels. It just doesn't make any sense, you know? You want to create your own, but you don't want to also get so creative that it looks stupid. It has to be timeless and classy.
It's crazy because it's such a great platform to launch this wheel business on. Is there anyone else that's doing something like that? That's awesome.
Yeah,
especially the GT cars.
Yeah,
that business will be hurting.
That's why it's almost discouraging to even want to buy a car right now. I just want to stay put and see how this all pans out.
I think the big problem here lies in the current pricing of cars.
Imagine if there's another 25% tariff.
I think ultimately people are going to be resorting to buying cheaper cars. Cheaper cost abroad, it makes sense.
Ready to grab my sip of coffee before we get going. Oh, yeah. Yum, yum.
Nothing like a tall, fresh cup of black coffee.
Alrighty. So, welcome back, everyone. We're doing another episode of Car Talk here. We're at Eric's humble adult, pretty awesome place. Yeah, it's been a while.
2 weeks.
Since we've done a podcast?
Yeah.
Actually,
it's been longer than that.
3 weeks.
I think we did the road testing of the Grecale in the Alpha.
Yeah, you're right. There's still snow on the ground now. We got 18.
I feel like it was 2 winters ago because, you know,
that's true.
Winter was over, then we got snowed again this week. So
it's true. But I think spring is here.
Is your car out? Have you driven it yet?
I took it out once.
Okay.
So
you haven't driven yet?
No, I haven't. I haven't had time.
Jeez,
I'm too busy doing this. Talking about cars versus instead of driving them.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, let's kick off this episode then. I know we've got a bit of F1 to do later as well. Pretty excited
Race day.
to watch it. So yeah, in this episode, we've got 3 topics. We're going to talk about spring prep. Obviously, we've got our cars in storage and we're going to take it out for the spring and the summer. And we'll talk about what our ritual is to try and get those cars out. Second, we're going to do a 2025 edition of Wheel Talk. I mean, I think we did it.
I think there's some exciting news here from someone here taking on a new initiative with Wheels. So
yeah, exactly. So we'll touch on that, and then finally we'll talk about the super hot topic on tariffs and how it impacts car enthusiasts and our cars in Canada, really. So you've kind of done the prep work. So
yeah, I got some good data on that I think will frame it up nicely.
Cool. Sounds good. So let's start off with the easy topics first, and then we'll end off with the tariffs.
With the more aggressive and not so great. Actually, they could be great because remember we're in Canada, so we're affected a bit differently than the U.S. But we'll get to that.
Yeah. So okay. Let's do that. Make sure we're good. All right. First topic. We're going to talk about spring prep. So what do you all do? What's kind of the ritual in terms of getting your cars out?
I'm not as anal as I used to be with storing procedures. Before I was kind of like this, the air, the tires, and like put foam under this. And now really my go-to is just I put a bit of air in tires, just 5-6 psi more. I don't overinflate them like crazy because I just found you don't need to do that. Silica beads inside the car.
Okay, for moisture.
Yep.
Like the packs.
Yeah. So I just change it like midwinter. So I have 2 big packs of silica gel balls, and so it collects moisture, and you can tell because I have ones that are they color change. They go from blue to like a pink if they absorb too much moisture, and you can actually microwave them or something to bring them back to their original state.
Okay, so to reuse them for next season.
Evaporate the moisture.
The moisture.
So you've observed that there is a lot of moisture.
Quite a bit.
You know what?
Yeah.
It's good, especially where we are in Ottawa Valley.
Yeah, we're in Ottawa, and in wintertime sometimes I do heat the garage sometimes to do stuff in the garage. So there is some cycling going on there, so it does help. Leave the windows crack open, full tank of gas, some stabilizer.
So It's interesting you say that because I don't do the silica beads.
Yeah.
I should. I think it's a great idea. I mean, let us know if you all using that or not.
Cap litter also works.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't do the window thing. I keep it seal tight.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I don't think it hurts to leave it open, or it doesn't hurt it to close it. I think just instead of keeping the cabin locked in, just I leave it like a 1/4 inch.
Yeah.
Just to let some air movement in there.
Well, it sounds like your winterization. So really,
yes. So to get out of it, I just started in a drive, really. Just deflate the tires a little bit.
Yeah.
And then I usually do an oil change because I run the oil obviously all summer, and then I change it towards like May. I don't do it in April just yet because I'm not driving too much, and I prefer the car be driven a little bit and warmed up properly before I do an oil change.
Yeah.
So typically like end of April, May, I'll just change the oil, and then that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The only thing obviously I keep mine on a trickle charger. I would imagine.
Yeah.
Do you trickle charge? Yeah. So I'm of course taking off the trickle charger, check the air pressures because I also overinflate just a little bit.
How much is a little bit of
like 4 or 5 psi?
Yeah, I go 5 psi.
Really, eh? Okay.
Yeah. But I think in today's modern tire technology, you're probably okay if you didn't.
Yeah.
Like provided when you parked the car, they were at the proper psi levels. So.
I've always done like a 10 psi over.
Yeah.
But I was a bit lazy this time around, this past winter. But it's good to know that it's not as necessary.
Yeah.
I mean,
it really isn't. Even if you do, let's say, leave it at 25 psi, which is super low.
Yeah.
And it gets flat spotted a little bit, you drive it for 10 minutes, it's gone. Like it's really not a big deal.
But you have to do this for a year, many years for it to really have like permanent flat spotting.
Yeah, I guess. So if it's sitting for 3-4 years somewhere in a storage somewhere or a container or a barn of some sort, if you have a Miura and you just forget about it,
or if you take a hairpin on Formula One at 300 kilometers an hour,
that'll hurt.
And lock up, you're gonna flat
that'll
spot
hurt.
Yeah,
so don't do that and store it.
Well, if you did that, then you could just go take a blade and shave it off. No.
I suppose you could do that.
I've seen those videos where in countries they do that. They just heat it up and carve new treads in them.
So in F1, I mean, that's what they do at the end of the races.
Yeah.
They scrape off the rubber.
Yeah.
Well, that's not rubber from the tire. That's the stuff they picked up. The pebbles that they picked up from other cars.
That's for weigh-in. You don't know that trick?
Yeah.
They always go in the debris to pick up as much.
That's true.
Make sure they're not underweight.
Yeah. You ever see Max go when he's going into when he's pulling in? He goes like in the grass almost. Like
Russell lost the victory last year because he was underweight. Because this circuit they don't allow the cool down lap. You go right in.
Yeah.
And so he was under a kilometer.
Wow, that's interesting. I did not know.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah. I don't. I mean, to wrap up spring prep. You keep your car clean in the winter. I don't use a cover. You guys, I know you don't. use covers
you know what?
either.
The cover I was debating even putting on this year, but I find it one, I kind of want to see my car occasionally when I come in and out.
Yeah.
And two, I find the cover might do more damage than anything else because
micro scratches.
The wind blows, it'll move it. I mean, you can get premium covers that are like felt and stuff, but I mean, I'm not spending $800 on a cover just to cover the car. If it does collect a bit of dust, waterless wash, or just rinse it with a hose in the spring and wipe it down, and it's clean again. So I was never too fond of the car covers, and I don't use it personally.
I'm with you. Like I have to look at the car. In those dreary days of winter, it's something that I look forward to and get to be motivated for the summer, spring that I get to drive it. So I don't cover it.
Same. I don't cover it either.
Yeah.
I don't do the what do you call it, the tire cushion or whatever. I know people kind of go crazy about that sometimes.
Yeah.
But like,
well, I think our friend Megan has a checklist of things that Richard does to her car that includes parking on road, like floor mats and I don't know, mothballs in the tailpipes.
She puts like
mothballs
foam
in the tailpipes.
Maybe that too, but she puts foam underneath her wiper blades so they don't touch the glass.
Well, it's next level.
Next level. Megan's very dedicated.
There's like, when you go to the Porsche forums or whatever, there's like a pretty extensive checklist of what to do, right?
Yeah.
But I find it's someone's opinion on what you should be doing.
Absolutely.
You got to take care of it, obviously. From a tire pressure perspective, it's interesting that plus 10 psi is not necessary to create that flat spotting. In the 4 months that we
understand why it happened, right? Because the cold air, the contraction, like that's so
the way kind of
the volume, like what we're talking is volume in the tire. Like I 5, 10, I don't think it's a science, right?
Yeah.
You'd probably be okay at either.
I honestly think people should focus more on like fluids, coils, plugs, oil, brake, like all those routine things that need
the expensive stuff.
That's mechanical, because like tires or something, those small things, they're not gonna kill the car. If anything, they might kill the tires if you're not religious with it. But I think fluids is the most important part, you know.
And so speaking of fluids, you mentioned you do the oil change in the spring.
Yes, not in the fall.
Yeah, I do the same. But there's people that are very religious about doing it before storage.
Yes.
I think the schools of thought on that are do it in winter so you get all the impurities, everything out. It's not sitting in your oil pan. And but then the other school of thought of not doing it in spring is because then you get moisture build up, things like that in the oil
and
system.
It's older. But I mean, ultimately, I think the best practice, if you wanted to be really thorough with it, is do one in the fall and then do it in the spring.
Which is
so you'd have.
I used to do that with my Mustang.
Did you?
When I was super OCD, I would it's dumb looking back.
Yeah.
I would change it before I put the car away, and then when I took the car, I would change it again.
Yeah.
So you got that's so stupid.
You're just taking brand new
oil.
Yeah. I mean, oil's been sitting. I'm not sure if there's a shelf life on open oil. Yeah, like if the oil's closed in a canister,
oil's fine.
I think it should have a very long life.
It's no problem.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't think it matters if it sits in the car, but I was reviewing both kind of options, and I just chose to do it in the springs. I want fresh oil in the car in the spring. That's all.
And that's exactly what I do as well. But as soon as I take it out for spring, I don't gun it.
Yeah.
I don't redline it or anything until I get that oil change done.
Yeah.
Just take it easy.
Yeah. So I think that makes sense. I wanted to touch on the battery maintainer.
Yep.
So at the very least, if you do nothing, that's the bare minimum that you want to do.
Yeah, I don't know. You have to.
I think you have to.
I mean, in our climate, like it gets so cold, that's a battery killer.
So there's some cars like my BMW. I know the battery, if I leave it off the trickle just sitting, it can sit for probably a month and a half, 2 months, and it'll start. But like I don't know about your car, or the RS, but with my dad's Carrera, it'll die in like 2.5 weeks.
Yeah.
Like you have to keep it on a trickle. It's very, very sensitive, and it's very inconvenient because if you don't drive it often, especially in the summer, you have to keep plugging it in.
Yeah.
So
my car's okay in the summer. Like there's been times in the summer I haven't driven it for a month, and there's no issue.
Yeah.
But in the winter, in the dead of winter, if I left it off for a month, I do worry it would not turn over.
Yeah.
Yeah. I find with the Porsches, the trickle charger install or like the setup, it's pretty trivial and easy. Hit it up, plug it into the cigarette lighter, and off you go.
Yeah.
With the BMW, you have to kind of connect it to the positive and negative terminals.
In the hood or the trunk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At least the M2, it's in the hood, so it's easy access.
Yeah.
But for folks that have it all the way in the back,
for I don't have a Porsche. I have a Motomaster one that I've used forever, and it has all the attachments where you can.
Yes.
You can hit it on the terminals, or in my 911 I use it just in the cigarette lighter as well.
Mm-hmm.
It's been amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, just cycles on and off at 2 amps.
Yeah, the Genius one that I have, you can actually connect it to your terminals, and there's like 2 feet of slack. So after you can just take it out of your trunk or out of your hood, wherever you keep it, rolled up.
Yeah.
And you just a direct plug. So you don't have to have anything open charging,
Yeah, I originally had the front the hood open.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, this doesn't feel right.
It just looks awkward too.
Yeah. I mean, like, is it stressing out the hinges or something?
I saw one on a Huracan, because Huracans have a battery in the front trunk recessed back.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a company that actually takes apart the liners. They extend the terminal, and they put a magnetic roundel underneath the grill, like in the front. So actually you don't see it, but the minute you park in the garage, you just take the thing, goes click, and it's charging.
It's like MagSafe, eh?
It's very,
it's a 12 volt.
I would love to do that. Like put it somewhere underneath the bumper where you don't see it in one of the intakes, and it's a thin, like 3 millimeter puck. Right. So all you do is you take your terminal and just click, put it on.
Sounds like a mod,
like an iPhone charger.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know why we don't do more of it now. I think you start to see a lot more of these mag wireless charging things now.
It's a pretty big market, because I mean, trickle chargers, then most of the northern hemisphere stores sports cars.
Yeah.
Right.
Cool. Yeah, that sounds like we're all aligned. I think in the coming winter, I might do less. I won't worry much about the tire pressures as much. Battery and oil, that's all.
It's like 5 minutes of work to really do it. So, it doesn't hurt.
Yeah. Because what happened was this spring, I cranked up the tire pressures on all the cars, all the tires. And then spring comes along. I'm like, man, I forgot what the tire pressures were. I didn't know what precise tire pressures were. I mean,
you have a gauge or?
I do.
Yeah.
But like when you crank it up, I guess over the winter, the pressures kind of reduced a little bit. So when I go 10 psi over, I guess it's sitting there. Maybe I don't know what happened, but it's
well, the air molecules contract. Right?
Yeah,
like that's the volume. It's less volume.
exactly.
And then if you immediately, let's just say it was a 30-degree day and you went out and drove, like not only would it be 10 higher, probably 20 higher because it expands. Right?
Yeah. So then coming out of in spring, trying to get the cars out, I'm like, I'm doing guesswork. I was, what was the tire pressure at the time of storing? Because that's the pressure I want back on, right?
Just open your door. There's a sticker there. It tells you.
Yeah. Is that so? When we
or maybe your car has, is it nitrogen that they put in? Because
no,
they say that's
no, it didn't have.
No, what's the gas that?
Yeah, it's nitrogen.
Yeah, it's nitrogen, right? It's a little more stable. It doesn't. It's not as volatile. So if you did that, you probably wouldn't need to overinflate because it's meant to be.
Yeah.
Oh, that's true.
I'm not sure where they even do that, where you can fill it up with nitrogen.
I don't know. They used to charge you, oh, do you want to put nitrogen in your tires, and charge you like $40
It's a bit of a pain in the bum too. It costs a bit more. And then you have to be careful about not mixing nitrogen and regular air.
Yeah, you don't need it.
Oh, you can. That's fine.
Oh, yeah?
There's no problem. It's like,
okay. Oh, okay.
So, I mean, I'm out of storage. You're not out of storage. You're kind of out of storage.
I had one out of storage.
Yeah,
the GT3 RS is still pending. It's still on life support.
Yeah. Cup 2s aren't great for this time of the season too, because they pick up stones and just shoot them everywhere.
Yeah.
Even like my PS4S, like coming now, they've cleaned the roads, but like my neighborhood, they put stones all over the roads.
Yeah.
During winter for just traction.
I think it's just caught up in the aggregate of the salt.
Oh my god! Like my truck, I can drive it on the gravel and it was fine. I pulled out in my car with PS4S. I couldn't go over 10 per hour because it was just shooting rocks everywhere.
Well, I'll wait for that first big heavy rainfall first before I take the car out. You know, the scenario we describe right now is not the scenario for most people. Like, yeah, we have a car stored out or whatever.
Yeah.
But when you talk about folks that may have only the one car that they're taking all season long or whatever, spring prep will be a little different.
Tire swab.
Yeah.
Shampoo, clean the carpet.
We should
have Tarsi on the channel because he's a one-man, one-car kind of guy now.
Yeah, that's true.
RS6 all full year, right? So
what does he do to like take all the salt out of the underbody?
I think he just gets it detailed in the spring. Just shampoo the carpets, everything. He brings it to Lewis, and Lewis takes care of that for him.
That's cool.
But I think it's mainly just a cleanup, right? And if your car's PPF'd, I guess you can do less. But if it's not, there's...
He doesn't adjust ride height or anything.
He's on air.
It's air suspension.
Okay.
So he has on his phone. He's an app.
All right, so that's fine.
He has like a setting for November to March.
Okay.
And then,
rule set up. Yeah. If March, go raise the.
Yeah. Go low. Yeah.
Go to low mode. Yeah, that's awesome. Cool. There was a thought I wanted to bring up. Totally blanked out.
Forget.
Anyways, I think that kind of covers our. A spring prep. I'm pretty excited to get the cars out and start driving and doing cars and coffee. It's almost there. One more big rainfall and
I think so.
Be out.
Tuesday.
This Tuesday?
I think we're getting more snow on Wednesday. Did you see that?
No.
Like a flurry, nothing that.
Okay. I don't know.
Do you have a big heat gun?
Yeah. I have a huge cannon. Yeah.
Can we get a whole bunch of them and put it around the house and just like
torch all the hot air? Grass catches on fire. It's like California all over again here.
I mean, think about it. I mean, if you had a whole bunch of like, heat guns on a gimbal attached around the home, you just create like this heat bubble.
I can see. Bubba's living in the future. He's got drones circling his house of heaters.
It's not very unrealistic. I think it's really possible.
At this point, you're right. It probably isn't. Yeah.
I'm sure the net zero plan will really love this. We're gonna all be under the carbon tax pricing. And
what do you think is going to happen when we got humanoid robots in every home? They're predicting, just like PCs when they were blowing up, every home is going to have at least 2.
Everyone's going to have a robot.
Oh yeah.
Really? Wow.
I think that's going to be the evolution of our in the next 10 years.
Well, I'll definitely never say never, because I think someone, they thought there was only a need for like 5 computers in the entire world.
Exactly.
That's what the declaration was, like 150 years ago, whatever it was.
And Microsoft came along. Nope, we're going to put a PC.
And then everyone has one in their pocket now.
Yeah, exactly. All right, let's switch topics. Actually, before we do, let us know in the comments below, how do you prepare for spring? What are your steps, or what are your rituals in getting your cars out of storage as well? Or if you're driving it, what are they like? So, second topic, let's do this 2025 Wheels edition. Kind of have a big big milestone
Big announcement.
Lucas. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's not really maybe a milestone, but it's
Wait, did we got sponsorship before we let him plug this?
Oh,
the pod? Like, what kind of deal are we
I
looking
don't,
at here?
I don't know. We haven't talked that.
no,
Maybe,
we haven't gotten there yet.
Free wheels for you and I?
Yeah.
Well, he's talking about Centerlock, so
Okay.
GTS.
You need a prototype car.
No, I mean, I've been through so many wheels, and I'd like to always change stuff around and try new things. But I think it's come to a point where I realize, like, especially with growing costs, a lot of the nice wheels now, they're priced really high, and I think it's becoming like the car enthusiast and the mods for the car are getting separated because of that price.
Yeah.
And like, people can't buy what they want for their car. And even for me, like, I had some sponsorships here and there, but you get a used A4 for 30 grand. You spending 15,000 on wheels, like, it just doesn't make any sense,
Yeah.
So I just wanted to create something that's going to be obviously more affordable and forged, and something that I thought was going to be a nice design, because a lot of the current wheels, unless you're paying big money, the designs aren't really shocking. The finishes aren't like spectacular. There's very limited options in those regards. So I think this was partially just a venture for myself. I just wanted to do it for fun, and I'm going to push the idea and the product to people if they're interested. But it's something I just enjoy. And
so I think what he's talking about is he's now Dubspec Wheels
Dubspec
company.
Forged, yeah.
Dubspec
Forged,
yeah.
Wheels. So you've already come out with your first design.
We were working on it for probably 3 months, and a lot of tweaks here and there, because you don't want to copy something that already exists. You want to create your own. But you don't want to also get so creative that it looks stupid. It has to be timeless and classy. Yeah, so like, there's obviously a 5-spoke is going to be very timeless. Y-spoke, a mesh wheel, like, those are all kind of staples of wheel design. And the trick is getting those designs unique and different enough that they're not looking like something else, especially being like someone like myself. The first attack is gonna be, you copied this, you copied that. You don't want to copy anybody. You want to create your own, right?
Yeah.
So there's a bit of finesse involved in the design and then engineering, because it has to be structurally sound after you design it. So first model's done. Second model's in the works. It should be ready soon.
And this is obviously M3 fitment currently, what you've done. But
the one on my car, yeah, is fitted to my car.
But it's open for if someone with a 911 wanted that wheel, the wheel.
Yeah, any fitment, any size. Finish is basically limitless. I will probably have a lineup of finishes that are going to be like in the books, but right now we kind of build whatever you want.
Now, if I'm a prospective customer, will I get you in, like, because you've got a great eye for design, and you've always sort of nailed the fitment game. Is that part of it, or is it the customers on their own, or do you work with them?
Customers always welcome to give me the specifications they want to run on their car. If they choose to ask for advice or something like that, I could definitely do that. But every make and model has different tires and that kind of fitment, suspension. There's so many different variables. So typically we treat that as a baseline. Like, let's say you have a 18x9 ET30. The limits of what you can do to be safe, right? If you want to push the boundaries of the wheel setup and spec, you have to know the car pretty well.
But here's the thing. I think it's what you're kind of alluding to. It's a bit of a value proposition as well.
Like a consultation for fitment. Yeah, for sure.
Because it's almost like if you all interested in buying wheels, if you get it through Dubspec Forged, he's got a keen eye for this.
So because this is like the caramel secret on Instagram, like car enthusiasts. The Dubspec fitment.
Yeah.
Because you get 1,000 messages a month probably.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
what's your offsets? Like,
yeah.
I get them, and I'm I have a much smaller account.
Yeah.
Now, if I get a Dubspec wheel, does that open up? Can I get that wheel now?
Yeah, it does.
You'll disclose it? That's how much?
It's all right. It'll be disclosed.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's actually funny because when I started doing more aggressive specs on wheels with HRE, people would actually ask for my fitment with HRE.
Right.
And there was, a lot of wheels that I've bought from them that I spec'd much differently than they spec. And then I see as time went on, these fitments are popping up online, and I'm looking at like that's not a HRE fitment wheel. That's my fitment wheel. Or I see them listed for sale somewhere, and I see the specs. And like those are very familiar to my specs. So I think obviously people refer to an account or a person in relations to fitment when they go to ask for something, right?
Well, now there's an official brand term for it.
Yeah.
Dubspec.
Dubspec, yeah.
You will have to put some fine printer proviso is like there's also suspension, everything varies. So
totally.
It's like
like it's like even the wheel sizes I have on my car really only work with one tire size.
Yeah.
If you choose to go with a different tire,
and entire brand
specifically. So the minute you start changing those variables, then it might not work, right?
Yeah.
Like the one that's on my car now is like max basically
before you start rubbing,
before you start touching anything. So it looks very aggressive, but it doesn't rub or touch anything. So that's the key, right?
It's crazy because it's such a great platform to launch this wheel business on.
Yeah.
Because there's so many F80s out there.
Yeah.
And they're starting to claim that F80s are kind of like the all-around modding platform, modern, but it has like the power. And so there's a lot of F80s out there.
And they're becoming quite affordable now.
Yeah.
Because a lot of used ones coming up. They've been out since 2016, really.
Well, people trade in their G80s for F80s.
Yeah, I've seen that.
I've seen a lot of stories go that way as well, right?
Yeah.
So I think it's...
I think it's almost like, I mean, it's not really a direct comparison, but it's the last of the modern analog car in a sense, where they didn't have digital clusters, much less aid, more of a raw drive for a modern car.
It's kind
of very much like with the 991.2 versus 992 or not even now 992.2 with a full digital cluster
it's interesting because it kind of falls in line with the 997.2 GTS. It's the last of the analog Porsche 911s that you could get before they went electric steering. And I think now in this new era, 991.2 GT3 RS is kind of that last of the pure
RS
car.
Yeah.
Because now it's like all these crazy gadgets like adjustable suspension systems, the DRS, active wing and active aero everywhere.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's interesting.
Yeah.
So congrats on starting up the business.
Thank you. For now,
we'll do some B-roll shots of Lucas's wheels.
We have to go to his house.
The car's outside.
I drove here,
car's outside.
I told you, I'm out of storage.
Okay, there you go.
So you'll insert it now and walk around and I'm not telling you how to do your job here.
Who's leading this podcast again?
Awkward pause.
I'll put a director's credit on this episode.
Yeah. So for now, I think I'm sticking to monoblock stuff. I think so. In terms of trends for 2025. I mean, monoblock are still very, very popular, mainly because of fitment and because of clearance. And I've seen actually a lot of people start to, kind of gravitate towards aero disc style wheels. So instead of inserting carbon discs on a monoblock of some sort, they're actually cutting
I've seen
aero discs. That probably adds substantial weight, to be honest, because there's quite a bit of aluminum there. The idea is to try to keep a forged wheel. I mean, depends on size, but below 25 pounds. You don't want to go like a 19-pound wheel is very light. A 22-pound is pretty much like very, very good weight. But when you're creating aero discs in like a 20 by 13, they're going to be 30 some pounds. It's going to be heavier, even though it's forged. There's a lot of material there that you aren't cutting, right?
The other trend I would add is I'm seeing a lot of center lock conversion type of wheels.
Yeah,
where they put on a 5-lug, but they have this kit that makes it.
Well, so BBS have had that for so long already.
You're right. They've had the center cap that makes it look, but I'm saying there's actually where you spin it on. It's like has a lock nut.
Actually, that's right. The G87 M2 has that.
So that's a factory option, though. But I mean, you can like BC Forged. They actually offer a center lock conversion kit. So if you buy a wheel from them for, let's say, your car, they'll make a wheel that has like spaces in the hub to hide the bolts, but you bolt on like a 5 mil spacer with a center lock. You put your wheel on, and then you center lock your wheel on. It's just it's an adapter.
It's an aesthetic. It's not actual functionally holding the wheel. No. It's you've got the lugs are what's holding the wheel on.
No.
And then it's a little set screw that.
No.
Oh,
So
okay. No.
So
I'm talking about an actual conversion. You actually you bolt on with your well, not your factory, but you have a like a wheel bolt that bolts on a device onto the hub and has a center lock thread. And then you put the wheel on, and then you thread that on as if it's a center lock.
Yeah. I guess the value of doing something like that is that you have clean lines through the wheel, right? Is that what people are chasing after?
I think it's the look, right? It's more of a motorsport look. It's clean. You don't have the 5 pockets.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. It's a bit. I don't know how we feel about it, but
I don't feel good about it.
Yeah.
I can tell you why. Because Porsche has been doing center lock OEM fitment for a long time, and even the 992. GT3 RS had a recall on center locks because they weren't staying on. So people had to park their cars for 4 or 5 months.
Yeah.
So it's a very sensitive type of locking system, which has to be, I think, really well engineered. And I wouldn't be slapping on some sort of homemade center lock contraption on your $200,000 car.
Yeah.
McLaren has 1,000 horsepower cars, and they run 5 bolts.
And I'm sure they're milled in the opposite. Hopefully, they're milled the correct. Well, they would be.
Who knows?
The direction. Otherwise, it'll spin off while you're driving.
Porsche, they have aluminum paste, that, torque specs. Like, there's so much involved.
Locking mechanism on the center lock.
I would stay clear of those conversions, to be honest.
Well, I mean, Why play with safety? Eh?
Yeah, it's just too much at risk.
Unless you replace the hub entirely and do something more.
It's a very expensive mod just to have a center lock.
Exactly.
So
in terms of the trend, then, like from a design perspective, you're saying monoblocks is still kind of the popular design choice. Is like mesh designs are sort of popping up everywhere.
So the mesh design has always been popular. It's especially in the European Audi, Volkswagen, BMW world, it's a mesh wheel is kind of like the staple for a performance style wheel.
It's like
harder to clean. I mean, it depends what kind of brakes you have, if you're picky about it or not. But an open web wheel is always easier to maintain because obviously you can shove your hand in there and clean it. So it depends how you use the car and what you want out of it. But I like to keep my car clean all the time. If I do use it and it gets dirty, I want the cleaning procedure to be easy, not a pain in the butt. So with any mesh deep dish wheel, you can't clean the barrels. You have to remove the wheel to clean it. It just becomes more of a chore, right?
Even from a monoblock perspective, it makes it easy to clean.
Right.
But I find a good 5-spoke design is just so much easier to work with.
Sure.
Yeah, I've always
finishes. Like I've heard I saw this thing where it said like polished wheels making a comeback. I thought, no way.
So since you brought it up, but so the wheel that I just put on the car is the first model I launched. I decided to do a split finish. A split finish. Most companies don't want to do that.
Yeah.
But it's a monoblock wheel, so it's one piece. So separating finishes is difficult because you have to basically cut that finish somewhere, and it usually requires a 2 or 3 step process. So what I did is I actually ceramic polished the entire wheel. It's full polished. And then after, so what you do is you take a billet cut wheel, you put it in a tub with small little pebbles,
beads,
and the beads polish the metal after 5-6 hours at a time.
The entire
wheel.
It's not like you're taping
the whole wheel.
Okay.
And then after, hand brush the sections you want brushed. So in this case, I hand brushed the inner barrel. I hand brushed where the tire mounts. I hand brushed the whole face. And then I left the pockets where the bolts and spokes go polished.
Will that haze over
because the whole wheel is powder coated clear.
Okay.
So you're sealing in whatever finish is there.
Okay.
So it's not going to haze. You don't have to repolish it after rain or something. Every wheel is basically powder coated. No matter if it's, some people even cut the wheel and leave it unfinished and clear and powder coat it. So you have the milling lines in the wheel just to showcase the raw aluminum look.
I guess I was thinking about the days of like my Mustang days where people were getting the polished Cobra R's. And they would just hate it was a full-time job trying to maintain these wheels.
Actually I had a set of Mickey Thompsons on I had a lifted Tundra back in the day. And I wanted some Mickey Thompson wheels with some big tires on there. So I said, okay, I'm getting Mickey Thompsons. Polished wheels, beautiful, nice hub. And then after, it was summer. I loved the truck. It was great. But I noticed if you wash the car and you left the water on the wheel, it would etch. You had to almost I got a power ball with some polish, and it was like a routine, polish the wheel. Winter was coming, and I said, you know what? I'm going to have to seal these wheels because they're going to get destroyed. So I got this kit online. It's like seals the wheel. It's a sealer for winter, good for months. And I put it on. I spent like the whole afternoon putting this like 4-stage sealer on these wheels. I drove for 2 weeks in the salt and they were white. They were like gone. So in the spring, obviously they oxidized so much from the salt. I didn't know what to do. Like I tried to polish them. There was way too much polishing to do. I took them off, brought them to RLD, powder coated them black. And that was the end of it.
So your new wheels, so they're clear coated. So that's not going to be a
They're powder coated clear. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It's a powder coat that's more resilient to chips and road debris, but they're completely sealed. Yeah.
So can you say that's kind of a unique thing that you're doing?
The split design, yes. Yeah.
Is there anyone else that's doing something like that? That's awesome.
There's a lot of aftermarket finishing shops will do that service, but most manufacturers that produce like wheels, big brands, they don't want to spend the time doing that. And I think it's just too cost effective, or not cost effective enough for them to do it. So it's something that I want to see on wheels. I think it's cool to do different finishes, and you can do them in different tints. So if someone wants a champagne wheel, but they want, let's say, the barrel to be full polished and the face to be brushed, I can do that, and then after powder coated in a light champagne, so you have a polished champagne. So there's tons of different options you can do, but it makes the wheel look more detailed and intricate.
Do you have a website for this? I didn't.
No. Like right now, this is honestly just like a side endeavor of mine, which I think like I'm going to launch the site with finishes, everything to be specific, like on models and.
And do you have there's an
Instagram page is there. There's a link to a bunch of like
Dubspec
Forged. Yeah, and obviously I'm displaying a lot of the stuff on my car right now. I have 2 orders going out next week, another one coming. Awesome. So yeah, there's a few more cars going to be rocking the wheels, and you're going to see them probably posted on the page.
To be honest, like as long as you have that Instagram page, the website is almost secondary.
So
unless you find yourself getting up to a large volume.
Yeah, large volume. And right now I'm not like, so the wheels, obviously people are asking me, where are the wheels made? And this is not like a secret. They're not made in Canada or US because it's just it's not profitable, right? So everything is made in Taiwan. It's drop shipped from there. I do the design. I have engineering over there in the factory just doing my engineering. And then they're cut, milled, and finished in Taiwan. And then they shipped out, drop shipped wherever you want. So, but I have the CAD drawings. I have the certification for everything, whether they're going to Europe or not. So that's the only way to bring it to a client for half the value that you're seeing wheels for online. Unfortunately, like Canada, US, they don't allow to cut like.
Just
forged wheels. You can't forge. You can't do forgings in North America. So the forgings, wherever they come from, whether it's AL13 or other companies in North America, they're getting them from the same source because that's the only place that forges these forgings. So the 10-ton pressed, it's just I just cut them there and drop ship them. It makes it much cheaper than having a warehouse here, getting a milling machine, milling them here, packaging them again, and shipping them out again. It's just you're adding cost to the process.
This is cheaper.
Ultimately passing on to the
consumers. I mean, it's cheaper than HRE wheels, I would assume. Significantly,
like less than half the price.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, good luck on the venture. I mean, if you're all interested, obviously, if you're looking for Dubspec Forged Wheels with Dubspec fitment.
That was like 10 minutes of Dubspec, so we definitely are getting free wheels.
Coverage. Oh, we just have to hope that he has more volume.
Yeah.
Where then it's justifiable.
Where I don't have to spend money.
All right.
Cool. Well, stay tuned. Maybe we'll see it on 911, 997 GTS or GT3 RS. We'll see.
I think the M2 needs some new wheels per bull.
Let's talk.
Okay, let's go.
Cool. Let's
the unpleasant topic.
Yeah, let's switch gears. So tariffs, you said you want to set this up.
Well, yeah, maybe I'll just kind of frame it like what has happened. I've kind of scoped it out too in terms of the size of the problem. So yeah.
Just quickly on the intro. So again, I think the discussion we're going to have here is going to be very much focus on the automotive impact of tariffs.
Yeah,
obviously.
Of course,
There's all kinds of political things that we can get into.
We're not talking about the dairy cartels and steel, although I mean part of it is part of that story, and that's why it's a lever being pulled. But yeah, so April 3rd, 25% tariff on the U.S. applied a 25% tariff on all non-US assembled, probably is the best way to put it, because all the cars that are manufactured in Canada are either Japanese or American. We don't have a Canadian car brand.
Yeah, I mean they're assembled or built in Canada, but they're ultimately a US company.
Yeah,
but I think like I'm not sure how the company's separated, because there is GMC Canada. It's a division of GMC.
Yeah, but it's a parent. But let me I'll set it up and kind of open to discussion. So that was April 3rd, and then Canada retaliated on April 10th, a week later, saying we'll apply a 25% target or tariff onto the cars that are manufactured. And to understand the asymmetry of this is that you've got Canada. 91% of the cars manufactured in Canada are sold into the US.
Yeah. Wild.
Yeah, so that they're a very big customer of ours. So what the tariff is being applied is a 25% cost to that. So on average, that's going to work out to about $4,000 to $8,000 depending on the vehicle in added cost that the U.S. is applying. And so what it is, the U.S. is applying a tax or tariff that they reap the revenue from, and it just disincents the sale of those particular vehicles, and it'll hurt the Canadian automotive sector. And then I'll put a question to you guys. What do you think in terms of, so 91% of the cars we make get sold to the US. How much of the US, the other way around, how of the US car market gets exported into Canada?
30,
so
30,
of 100 cars that they produce, how many get?
30 plus?
Close, 25. Okay. So 25%. So 91, we're, 91%, and they're 25.
But this is strictly North American vehicles, like domestic vehicles.
Domestic, yeah. We export more.
Let's be clear. These are cars manufactured. So so there could be a Mercedes that's manufactured in Alabama.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
That gets but it's
so BMW. Let's say X5. That's South Carolina, right?
Yes.
M2.
M2.
Yeah.
So M2 is not Mexico.
Oh yeah, it's Mexico.
Yeah.
Mexico.
Yeah, that's right.
And well, that would be caught up for the purpose of the discussion. Obviously, we're Canadian. So it's an interesting problem, right? That they're trying to pull, and this was a result of a broader look at steel, dairy, things like that maybe Canada hasn't been willing to budge, and it kind of begs it's going to hurt Canada disproportionately more, right? It's 91% of our sales, and do you know how many cars they make in Canada?
Like every
actual cars that you see on the road, like brand types.
What do you mean a figure number?
I've got a list. No, not
the models.
Yeah, how many different models do they make?
15.
Yeah, roughly
10.
Okay.
Yeah. Let me. I can
RAV4
put on
F-150.
RAV4. Yeah, a Silverado, Honda Civic, Honda CR-V, Lexus RX, Lexus NX, the Chrysler Pacifica, the Dodge Charger, Grand Caravan.
GT.
Yeah.
Well, so they're not making that in 2025. I don't think they have any model year. But you guys will be happy to know the Mustang GTD would be one of the 10 cars.
Okay.
That's here.
Yeah. So that presumably they should not be impacted by the tariffs.
Yeah.
Now, come May, where that might not be true, is the U.S. is finding a way to maybe on certain parts like engines and transmissions, taxing
those parts.
It's just hard if you're when you break down the supply chains, because you have a car that has parts going back and forth across the border.
To make that one car.
There's parts all over.
No,
7. I've heard
like a dozen times.
Yeah, I've
crosses the border.
Yeah,
back and forth, like before that one car.
Wow.
Is complete in production.
Yeah. Wow.
So imagine that, every single time they come in and out, it's like...
Or the engine is assembled in Dearborn and shipped across to Windsor for final assembly of
Okay, so let's say, so that's the bad news, but the good news maybe for us is, let's say those vehicles that are produced in Germany, let's say the Porsches, for example, okay?
Yeah.
Right now, I know there's news about them setting a factory
in North America.
But that hasn't happened yet. So
that would be in the U.S., not Canada.
It'd be in the U.S. regardless. Yeah. But let's say right now they're exporting from Germany and they're coming to Canada, and then they're coming also to the States, right? So it doesn't affect the pricing on our Porsches, but it'll affect the pricing on the U.S. Porsches.
Yeah, what the U.S. has done, they've gone sort of dollar for dollar. So I think Germany charges a 29% tariff on American cars going in.
Yeah.
I think
actually more.
I'm not far off. There's a 10%. There's an EU.
Yeah.
And then there's a VAT. and I think it's like the EU is 10% and the VAT is 19%. So I think it's roughly about 29%. So the US has countered that. So yeah, you can expect Porsches coming in will now be suddenly more expensive. For Canada, we are, politically, we are, being more aligned with Europe, and there's talk of a free trade agreement with Europe.
Yeah.
So that may give us access to German cars without tariffs and maybe opening up the market. But the truth of the matter, we're just not a big market for Germany compared to the US.
Yeah.
So the whole tariff thing isn't just between the US and Canada, right?
No, it's
not.
This particular part we're talking about. Yeah, there's global reform.
Well,
happening.
The U.S. and China are having a standoff.
Yeah.
They're just every day they're just increasing the tariffs.
So what are they, like 149 or
but
something?
That's why like companies are just seizing export right now because they can't.
Like Audi in the U.S., right? Like
they
said we're stopping.
VW, Audi, actually Jaguar, Land Rover. Yeah. All the
that's hurting
the British car manufacturers. They basically said we're pausing any exports to the U.S.
Yeah,
but I've also heard some announcements where they're onshoring, which basically they're going to start manufacturing more vehicles in the U.S.
Porsche's committed to that. Yeah. I think Toyota committed to that. All the Japanese manufacturers have already committed to making more of their cars in the U.S. Yeah. But the Germans have not, or like Audi or VW has not yet. BMW already has a lot of their assembly.
Well, actually, they only have really the X5 and the M2. Yeah. Everything else is Germany still. So there's not that many cars.
But for them to offset that,
the X5 is huge.
Yeah.
Because that's a huge vehicle for them. X5, X6. Yeah. And they're produced
X3, X1.
And they're produced only in they're not even produced in Germany. They're only produced in North America, with United States.
Or X3 is not in Mexico.
Is it?
I don't know actually.
I thought it was
X3, X1 are Mexican.
I think they might be, yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
I think only the X5, X6 is Spartanburg.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you could see the M2, X3, whatever's happening in Mexico going into the US as well, because there's tariffs coming.
The USMCA, the M stands for Mexico, so they're also part of this. I think what will probably define that more is when the May timeline comes, where if they can accurately parse out the supply chains and apply a tariff to the parts, that changes everything. Yeah. Because then you can't cross border
back and forth
assemble a car at a cost effective price point. It'll kill Canadian and Mexican.
I think we have to bring BYD to Canada, guys.
Well, that'll be happening anyways.
Yeah, it'll happen.
But the one thing that our government floated around the idea and about having a Canadian-made car. And I can't tell you what an awful idea this is.
Yeah.
I'm having like visions of the Lada all over again. Like I don't trust that a government-led automotive car company in Canada would be.
No, I think the smart move is to find manufacturers that will export their cars. I mean, we're not huge
assemble here.
Yeah, or assembly. We're not huge advocates of electric cars, but I can tell you that if Canada made a deal, to bring BYD cars to Canada. Oh, it would be huge.
That's going to happen.
Yeah,
like if you follow the
and these cars, they're premium to a lot of.
They're
EVs.
pretty awesome.
Awesome cars.
Sorry, they would never assemble them here.
No.
Like they're going to be made in China from the environmental reasons.
It's the import.
It's the import.
Well, that can already happen. Right? It isn't because Canada isn't a large market.
Well, but there's a tariff against that. That's why.
No, Canada's not retaliating with China.
Yes.
Well, yeah.
There's like 100% tariff on those cars.
That's the U.S.
No, Canada.
That's why the BYDs are not here yet.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's the only reason they're not here. If they drop the tariff.
I think it demands a part of the story too. Because did you see what happened with the GM Cami plant in Woodstock, or it's Ingersoll, Ontario? Mm-hmm. So they just shut it down, lost a bunch of jobs, and people are trying to blame that on tariffs. And that actually isn't a tariff story. So just to correct the record, it's actually there's no demand for the vehicles.
Okay.
So I think that's probably as likely. Canadian landscape for electric vehicles is just tough. We're broad expanse. We've talked about this a lot.
Yeah.
The cold weather. There's a bunch of
the distances, especially.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting. Before we get away from the cars and all that, I think even looking outside of the car as a whole, just the fact that there's this big tariff war between U.S. and China. And we are potentially in the crosshairs of that, and we may get pulled into it. Mm-hmm. If we have a deal with China, U.S. may retaliate against us as well.
Well, you've already seen that, right?
Yeah.
Like we are the only country in the world that has aligned itself with China,
Yeah.
which is really bad political strategy.
Yeah.
Like we're the only two China and Canada,
out
the
of
ones
the
that
75
retaliated.
that's aligned with the U.S.
Yeah.
Right.
Canada
And the others
not.
are negotiating, and I think they'll probably land on a more successful outcome than what we're set to.
Yeah.
It's just a huge poker game at this point. And
who's gonna blink?
Who's gonna blink? Yeah.
Essentially.
Yeah.
So all of these tariffs, it's interesting. It's basically resetting the global way of trading,
right?
In some ways, right?
Well, it's before that happens, it's going to bring a huge recession. It's going to bring a global recession. Like dealerships now, they've had the best month in sales they've had for 5 years. Because they're clearing out inventory that is tariff free.
Yeah, right? Price pre-tariff.
And that's great. But what happens when there's usually a high like that?
Well, there'll be a shortage.
There's obviously, it's followed by a huge low.
Yeah.
And that comes with housing market, with cars, with anything. If they're selling these cars like hotcakes right now, they're going to have nothing to sell. Or if the tariffs stay in place, it'll be stagnant for a long time.
But you know what's... Well, if you look at the positive side of all this, if you already have a very desirable car, those cars that you have now are going to be worth more on the used market.
Yeah.
So used car prices are going to
go up again.
Cost of borrowing, interest rates are going to drop.
Yeah.
So people are going to start buying more.
Well,
there's a short-term play that they'll you could have recessionary headwinds, but I also think the things that'll then happen, like you talk about onshoring, well then that's going to create more jobs and a healthier economy.
Yeah.
But there's going to be short-term pain. Like I think we're so indoctrinated to think like an income tax is the way that government should collect revenue.
Yes.
And they never used to. It used to be tariffs. It was like VATs. And a lot of countries around the world, like if you go to Bahamas, not that's a big economy, but they have VATs.
Yeah.
And that's how
Europe,
they generate.
UK is all VAT.
Right? Yeah. Yeah, they also have income tax too, but like at a lower rate.
High.
Well,
not as high.
There's income tax everywhere now, to be honest. Unless you go to like Monaco or is it Luxembourg or something like
Bahamas, Grand Cayman, Bermuda.
Well, I think U.S. and Canada are actually Canada is the highest for income tax. I know the Scandinavian countries.
Scandinavian countries that
they're
would be
high
up there
as
too.
well.
Yeah.
But their policies are more inclusive in many ways. There's like a base pay for everyone kind of thing, right?
I think it's probably more value for money in terms of you see their countries function a little bit better.
They spend it wisely.
They have better healthcare outcomes. But we could morph out of cars very quickly for alienate the base.
Yeah, I'm just really happy that a GT3 touring in US is going to cost the same price as a GT3 touring in Canada now.
Is that true?
Pretty much.
Well, it seems that with dollar parity depends on.
I mean, dollar parity. It's actually going to be better value for. Cost per exchange aside. The MSRP of a car in the U.S. is going to be very close to MSRP of a car in Canada.
It's like 24%, 25% more in the U.S.?
Yeah, after the tariffs. Because that's going to reflect the pricing of the cars, right?
But I don't think you can say because the
exchange rate.
The dollar, the FX
I know,
rate
but I mean, income for income. Like
it won't be a dollar there to dollar here.
Yes.
But just from a relative cost perspective, it's going to be MSRP.
MSRP to MSRP costing is the pricing.
But in the US, it's MSRP plus tariffs.
So exchange rate aside, right? Yeah. If you're staying in your country and you're using, the current currency, it's going to be the same price.
This is going to hurt the folks this is a big thing here too, right? Where people export cars from
that's huge.
Canada to the US.
Yeah.
Especially the GT cars.
Yeah. That business will be hurting.
That'll clamp down.
Yeah.
Which is good in a way because that means we have more that stays in Canada.
That's interesting though, because does the tariff apply just for like it's typically for manufactured
anything
vehicles
that crosses?
Yeah,
even used, I guess, right?
Well, because that already there's already like on non-North American made, right? Because the auto pack covered that.
Yeah.
Where if you wanted to buy a Ford GT from the U.S. and bring it to Canada, there's no duty, and vice versa because it's North American made. But if you wanted to buy a 911 GT2 RS from the U.S. and bring it in, you're paying, I think it's a 6.1% duty on top. Now, I don't know if there's another, again, and does that go to 25%?
So I heard that a certain age of car, or I was
that's
reading
25 years.
25 years or something, is exempt from all of this.
Yeah.
But I don't know about cars pre-2025. Because if you're purchasing now, regardless of whether it's a 24 or 23.
I'm going to look at maybe I'll drop it in the comments of the video after I do a bit more research on, does it apply to the used? Because
I think it applies to the used as well.
Because the duty or tariff already exists, and I haven't heard anything about it.
I think it's on top of that. These tariffs apply on top of these duties that already
exist. I think so too.
That's why it's so... It's almost discouraging to even want to buy a car right now. I just want to stay put and see how this all pans out.
Well, I'm hopeful that this is just political leverage, and like you say, who blinks first? And I would love to see a world go to a place in the world where there's no tariffs at all. True free trade.
You know, I don't want to go like that. I guess the whole reason, I might cut this out, but the whole reason for this taking place, the aggressive tariffs push from the US, is to try and enforce that free trade, right?
Yeah.
To balance out the imbalance that exists today in the market.
I mean, I know it's an unpopular view when you're talking about Donald Trump, but like his cut it out. No, but well, maybe like listen to what I have to say first. Is that there is an inequity to that. You know, Germany can sell all the cars it wants into the U.S. Without any tariffs, but when the U.S. automotive manufacturers want to sell into Germany, they hit them with a 29%, right? 19% VAT, 10% EU tariff. I think in principle
it should,
that makes sense.
It does make sense.
I don't know why it's such a controversial thing. Now you can argue the frenetic nature of the tariffs. They're on, they're off. That it's not an exercise in exceptional change management.
It's a very rapid change that's come very fast. A lot of world leaders and a lot of markets are not able to adjust quickly enough. I don't think policymakers or whatever realize this sort of change will come so fast.
But I think the big problem here lies in the current pricing of cars. I think Doug DeMuro had a small clip of the 992, .2. The MSRP,
8,000 more.
It are $8,000 or $10,000 more than the predecessor.
Yes.
Plus the tariffs now. Like that car's sitting at 100. Like a GTS is $208,000 US.
Yeah. It's unreal.
And there'll be tariffs on top of that as well after. So who's buying this car?
So
like we've talked about like
this car. This car pricing is it's been capped last year, and now it's even more. So I mean, I'm telling you, these sales are not going to be good.
No.
The 911 vacated that $100,000.
180.
And now it's out of it. It's literally over $200,000 for a nice Carrera.
Well-spec'd Carrera S was 189, 190,000 Canadian. Was it not?
So Carrera S 2021 with tons of options, carbon roof, ceramics, 179.
Yeah, see?
Canadian.
And now we're looking at 250,
that would be a 250
260.
car.
Yeah. So just keep that in your mind.
Plus the luxury.
You could literally sell this 2021 for 190K today.
So there's a whole bunch of things that happened from that point to where we are today. COVID happened. That messed up everything. The used car market, the new market, supply chains, everything got expensive. Manufacturers are starting to scramble and go, well, how do we recoup these costs? The only way is to like crank up the prices of these cars to make them viable for them, right?
I don't think they're wrong for doing that. When you manufacture something, you outlay all this capital, and then you see the reselling market making more profit than you do. I get it. Why you get price creep. And then the other thing, like luxury tax, I would say, if you're in Canada, that's made the car very expensive.
You know, that's going to be really crappy if we end up, if somehow those tariffs impacted imports into Canada as well, because of sort of retaliatory events that take place between US, Canada, Germany, Europe, or whatever. On top of the luxury tax, man, imagine if there's another 25% tariff.
Well, I think ultimately people are going to be resorting to buying cheaper cars. Probably.
It would be like a 50% tax rate on a car when you almost like 20% plus 25, 45%.
Like right now, it's 10% on the luxury tax, right?
There's a formula. It's roughly 10% or 20% of the amount over 100,000.
It's not. If you're buying a car for 110, it doesn't hurt you that much, to be honest.
So you're buying
$300,000. It hurts. It's quite a bit.
39 grand.
It's a big number, But I mean, people are going to resort to buying cars like the Mazda CX-9 or something that's for brand new $66,000. They're going to avoid those costs and just buy more affordable cars, and I think the threshold, the difference is from, like 20 years ago, you bought a Mazda SUV and you bought a Porsche SUV. They were huge. They were on different planets. But now, I mean, power aside, maybe even quality aside to some degree, visually the car's materials and appearances, they're pretty on par.
Yeah.
I don't think you're suffering driving a Mazda CX-9.
No.
Unless you're looking for an enthusiast spec car where you want the performance, the braking, the acceleration, but to commute to work and back to get groceries, that car does everything just the same. It's just the same.
I mean, when you look at all the brands that, for me, what I care about, like the Porsches, the Audis, the BMWs, somehow BMW is sort of maneuvering around all of this, and
a little bit.
But I don't know for how long they can maintain that.
I think they're maneuvering because they have a model that touches both sections. They have a SUV, and you can get a basics 5 for 94,000, or you can get one for 200.
Yeah.
Like they dip in every single category, so the options are very almost dispersed throughout the
It's
lineup.
true. Yeah, they've diversified in some way.
The models, which is why they can do that, right?
So if Porsche comes to the US, it could be a good thing if they start assembling their cars.
That'd be great.
But purists would argue that it's no longer,
I'll get it.
It has that cloud of it being German made.
He's not wrong.
It's not Stuttgart made.
He's not wrong, because when they announced M2 going to Mexico, people were like, "I'm not buying one."
Yeah.
It's the same machine that assembles it in. It's the same thing. Like really,
it's all robots.
Yeah, like you might find. Yeah.
Well, there's people involved in the quality check, but
totally.
As long as that process carries over, that's what's important.
Yeah.
It's interesting. We say global economy in some ways, like those processes can translate over no matter where you are in the world, which is some of the benefits of this globalization view of things.
Access cheaper labor pools.
Yeah.
Maybe different environmental regulation for some makers.
To be honest, I mean, going back to the wheels, for example, I think the same wheel manufactured here than, let's say, Taiwan, I think you'll get better quality in Taiwan, to be honest.
Oh, for sure.
Because I think the people who are building, checking, finishing the wheels, they have more time and incentive to do these things properly than the people who were to do them over here.
I got BC Forged Wheels on my 911, and there was comments when I first started posting that Chinese wheels. Taiwan's a separate state.
Yeah.
But anyway, Chinese wheels on a German car. You idiot.
Yeah.
Those kind of posts. I'm like, no, like I first sort of got alerted to the technological proficiency of Taiwan through my mountain bike. It's carbon fiber. All the great carbon fiber mountain bikes and parts are all made in Taiwan.
Yeah.
Like they're very advanced.
Yeah. And I can tell you, like, I was actually
semiconductors, like
a lot of
way.
parts. Yeah. But even like finishing quality, I put my set of wheels next to some really big price item wheels, and the finishing is superior.
Yeah.
Like the better quality finishing.
Yeah.
And it's it's not like it's impossible to do over here. It's just that it's not. I think doesn't pay enough to do that over here. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's a cap to it. So yeah, I mean, cheaper cost abroad, it makes sense, right?
So I guess in some ways, buying cars like a GT car or the GT3 in the current scenario, it's almost like not worth.
It's not worth it at all.
Yeah,
worth looking at it anymore.
I think we saw a 911 ST being posted for
$911,000
US.
Blue one.
I mean, I'm just seeing the what's the last iteration we have of the manual? What was it called again?
The Classic, Sport Classic.
No. It was the GT3, the R, or what was it called?
911R.
911R.
Yeah.
It's the same thing all over again with ST. I'm just seeing the whole thing happen again, and it was $700,000 US, and then after the next generation came out and it was worth 300. It's just I just see the same thing happening again with this ST.
It's true, but they're I mean, you got to look at the details to understand why the ST is the way it is.
I know,
but the 911 GT3 Touring was replaced the 911R. And point out the differences. It's indiscernible.
I agree. I think if you had the money and if you're a baller and you're like, well, I want that exclusive, ST vibe.
No, I'm not saying the ST is not a better car than the Touring, for example. It is better in a lot of ways. I just don't think that price is ridiculous.
I agree.
Anybody paying that price just is paying it because they have too much money and they want something that they can't buy.
No one else has. Yeah.
So that's the only reason it's priced that high. But I mean, is it worth that money? Not even close.
For us enthusiasts that are sort of sensible and are not billionaires in some way, that's even a $400,000 GT3
is wild.
It's ridiculous. Like GT3 RS for 500 grand, 600 grand. Like me. You know, I was like, I think I'm priced out a little bit. From what I'm comfortable on doing.
I think a lot of people are just priced out from that side. There's a very low percentage who are buying summer cars for $500,000. So it's not you know.
Oh, it's
I'm just hoping the used car market will.
I think it will, right? Like even if it's back to the tariff conversation, if $4,000 to $8,000 on average for a new car going up, well, all boats will rise, right? Everything will go up as a result. So
don't you miss the S2000 days?
Yes.
You know,
I almost want to go back to that.
That was great.
Just sort of carefree.
Great car, carefree. You drove it. Mileage didn't really matter at all. It just like
you better buy an S2000 before it goes up.
It's already gone up. I mean, right now, if you want to buy S2000, it's 10,000 more than what it was brand new. And that's like a used example that's like not really in great shape.
It could have 100,000 kilometers.
Easy. Yeah.
But those S2000s were so good. Even if you'd had 100,000, doesn't matter. Keep it going.
For
300,000 kilometers and it would still be rock
VTEC,
solid.
Baby. VTEC. Yeah.
Well, 9,000 or 10,000 RPM motor. It's the same thing with the RX-8. Although I wouldn't get an RX-8.
There we go again in the rotary.
Yeah.
Time bomb.
They're coming back with one.
Maybe.
So we'll see if how it turns out.
Yeah.
Cool.
All right.
Let's maybe wrap this up.
Yeah.
Let us all know in the comments as well. What are your thoughts on tariffs? Do you think you're going to buy a car in this scenario, or are you going to hold? I mean, like Lucas is saying, people are flocking to buy those pre-tariff cars now. We'll see what happens when those run out of stock. Anyways, hope you all enjoyed this one. Thank you all for watching. Like, subscribe, do all those things, and we'll see you all in the next one. Thank you, guys.
Yeah.